Welcome back to my channel. Subscribe because you will find my videos interesting. Talking about interesting videos, this one is one of them. Guys, you won't believe this. Finally, President Joe Biden issues an order targeting Israeli settlers who attacked the West Bank. This is good news, guys. Oh yes, it would have been good news only if it affected anyone. But it turns out that the order only named 4 people. 4 people, guys. In addition, these US sanctions cannot be applied to American citizens. Now, some of whom are thought to be involved in the violence. Can somebody tell me why these sanctions shouldn't apply to American citizens when 60,000 Israeli settlers are US citizens? Of course, we would have been surprised if this was something serious. I mean, something that would have changed something. But here we are talking about 4 people. 4 people, guys, sanctioned for the violation of the rights of the Palestinian people. Are they the only ones who have been doing this to the Palestinian people? Of course not. Check out these videos as different people react to this video. I will be right back.
Good news, everybody. President Joe Biden finally issued an executive order sanctioning settlers in the West Bank. Yes! Oh, wait. 4 people? That's it? Yes, 4 people. And one of them has never been to the United States and says he will never go to the United States. So what is this sanction for? By the way, this sanction doesn't affect any Americans who currently makes up the most amount of settlers in Israel. So what do I think of this sanction? It's a joke. Doesn't affect anyone. Anyone that matters.
As soon as I saw this, I knew it was for show because the United States doesn't do anything that's for the benefit of the Palestinian people. They only do something that's like, you know, a show for the global world to see. And then you read the full article and I was right. The sanctions that they're planning on putting on Israeli violent settlers only applies to 4 people. 4 people. And it cannot apply to American citizens. Most of the violent settlers are American citizens that hold dual citizenships to both Israel and America. It cannot apply to them, which is why I think they only pulled 4, because most of the violent settlers in the occupied West Bank is Americans. No, honestly. And this is according to Times of Israel, even though I don't like the publication. This was reported in 2022. 1 out of every 10 people who arrives to Israel is from the United States on their way to the West Bank. But the sanctions only apply to 4 people and it cannot apply to US citizens. Oh, please. This government is so full of BS. Every single thing that comes out of their mouth is either a lie or just something so minuscule that it barely does anything.
Hey, y'all. So Biden is going to sanction these West Bank settlers. You know, they out of control. They Palestinians in the West Bank. And I was wondering, I was like, well, how can he do that? How can he sanction the citizens of another country? And so I posted this on Threads, and these are some of the responses. And I guess I should have known this because it makes sense, but I don't know. Anyway, that's the question I asked. How can he order something against another country's citizen? And so Murphy says about 60,000 of them in the West Bank are U.S. citizens. I guess I knew that dual citizenship. And Drake says they do it with any American accounts, investment properties. They freeze that. And Jill says that a lot of the violent settlers are from the U.S. and Brooklyn, and they do their banking here. And I was like, what? So I asked, can Biden strip them of their American citizenship? These violent settlers who are dual citizens, who are committing, can they be stripped of their American citizenship? Wouldn't that be nice?
I have huge news. Biden called for visa bans and sanctions against Israel for their colonization and violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. He wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying the United States is prepared to take our own steps, including issuing visa bans against extremists attacking civilians in the West Bank. In the op-ed, he uses broad language to define who will get a visa ban, including Israelis that have done anything to threaten the West Bank, Israelis that intimidate Palestinians, Israelis that displace Palestinians, Israelis that obstruct, disrupt, or prevent a two-state solution, and Israelis that committed human rights abuses. On top of this, he called for sanctions against Israelis, and this is my favorite quote from the op-ed. They're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be, and it has to stop. They have to be held accountable. He called Zionist settler violence a serious threat. It's important to remember that Biden has still not called for a ceasefire. He says that there's not a possibility, no way. And he has allowed Israel of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. And also, these sanctions and visa bans are not written into law yet. But this is a big first step, and I think it's come because of the immense pressure put on him in the polls and in America because of his foreign policy in Israel. I'd like to see Biden call for a ceasefire, condemn Israel, and stop supporting it by sending military aid and money. And I'd also like him to send aid to the Palestinians in Gaza. Hopefully these visa bans and sanctions actually are written into law and happen. But this is great news because Israel has only been able to do all of these things to the Palestinians because of US back.
Now, families are being attacked and livestock unalived. Palestinian shepherds in the West Bank are being driven away from their homes by militant Israeli settlers. A lot is being done to Palestinian people, but this has not stopped the Palestinians from protesting. Now, could Biden's actions be mainly because of the pressure the US has been receiving over this issue? And maybe the idea was just to show people, to say, hey, I'm not part of this, so I am going to sanction these people. But for only jokes, right? Anyhow, this is what happened. So the Biden administration on Thursday imposed sanctions on 4 Israeli men it accused of being involved in settler violence in the West Bank, signaling growing US displeasure with the policies of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, President Joe Biden issued an executive order on Thursday that aims to punish ill-behaved Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank where Palestinians envisage a future state. Now, the order establishes a system for imposing financial sanctions and visa restrictions against individuals who attack or intimidate Palestinians or seize their property. Now, White House National Security Advisor said in a statement, today's actions seek to promote peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. He said the State Department sanctions freezing the U.S. assets of the 4 men and generally barring Americans from dealing with them are the latest since Palestinian Hamas militants on October 7 carried out an attack on Israel, and Israel responded with an assault on the Hamas-run Gaza Strip. Now, in December, the United States began imposing visa bans on people involved in violence in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. A State Department statement on Thursday said, now, David Chai initiated and led a riot that included setting vehicles and buildings on fire and causing damage to property in Huwara, resulting in the unaliving of a Palestinian civilian. A non-Tangier assaulted Palestinian farmers and Israeli activists by attacking them with stones and clubs, resulting in injuries that required medical treatment. Now, according to the video evidence, assaulted Israeli activists and their vehicles in the West Bank, blocking them on the street, attempted to break the windows of passing vehicles with activists inside, and cornered at least 2 of the activists and injured both. Now, Yenon Levy led a group of settlers that assaulted Palestinian and Bedouin civilians, burned their fields, and destroyed their property. Israel must do more to stop violence against civilians in the West Bank and hold accountable those responsible for it, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a separate statement. Now, the United States will continue to take actions to advance the foreign policy objectives of the United States, including the viability of a 2-state solution, and is committed to the safety, security, and dignity of Israelis and Palestinians alike. Biden and other senior U.S. officials have warned repeatedly that Israel must act to stop violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank. Biden has raised the issue directly with Netanyahu, said one senior official, as Biden seeks a path to a 2-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians once the Gaza conflict ends. State Department spokesperson said U.S. officials has presented documented cases of settler violence to Israeli counterparts, and in some cases, Israel had taken action. The levels of settler violence in the West Bank have come down in the past roughly 2 months since those interventions, Miller said at a press briefing. Now, 3 of the 4 men hit with sanctions had been prosecuted by Israel, he added. He said Thursday's order was targeted at foreign nationals, but he did not rule out further U.S. action against the many Jewish settlers who hold U.S. citizenship. You should not conclude that we're done, he said. Netanyahu, who heads a religious rightist coalition, has resisted U.S. entreaties to develop a plan for post-conflict Gaza and to embrace a peace deal that envisages Israel and Palestinian states side by side. His office on Thursday responded to the US measures by saying they were unnecessary. Israel takes action against all lawbreakers everywhere, and therefore there is no need for unusual measures on the issue, it said in a statement. Now, Israeli finance minister, head of the far-right pro-settlement party Religious Zionism, was defiant in a statement on the Biden order, saying the settler violence campaign is an anti-Semitic lie that enemies of Israel disseminate with the goal of smearing the pioneering settlers and settlement enterprise and to harm them and thus smear the entire state of Israel. Now, since the 1967 Middle East War, Israel has occupied the West Bank of the Jordan River, which Palestinians want as the core of an independent state. It has built Jewish settlements there that most countries deem illegal. Israel disputes this and cites historical and biblical ties to the land. Now, Hamas fighters unalived 1,200 people and captured 253 hostages on October 7, precipitating an Israeli offensive that has laid waste to much of Gaza. Health officials in the enclave said on Thursday the confirmed unaliving toll has risen above 27,000, with thousands more unalived still lying under the rubble. Now, according to the order, those settlers were involved in acts of violence as well as threats and attempts to destroy or seize Palestinian property. The penalties aim to block the foe from using the U.S. financial system and bar American citizens from dealing with them. U.S. officials said they were evaluating whether to punish others involved in attacks that have intensified during the Israel-Hamas war. Now, Biden's order is a rare step against America's closest ally in the Mideast, who Biden says has the right to defend itself. But the Democratic president has pressed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to show greater restraint in its military operations aimed at rooting out Hamas. Netanyahu denounced the U.S. penalties, which his government was notified in advance, U.S. officials said. This is where we currently are, but what do you, my viewers, have to say about Joe Biden's sanctions on 4 people only? Share your comments in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.